Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 44 of the Build Guide 2. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Welcome back to Sharon, everyone. You guys haven't seen this episode yet, but I'm back from holiday and I can't stop playing Orchid Bay again, which means more episodes for you guys. But welcome back. I hope you do enjoy this when you eventually see it, but last time we did our beautiful little town of Sharon. It turned out really nicely, at least the first half of it anyway. But we mentioned that we wanted to do kind of a twin factories build between the two towns today, so that's going to be today's episode. I'm going to use this space here to give Karen its own factory, and this one over here to give Sharon its own factory. So two industrial builds. Well, I've got some train line stuff I want to do as well today with import and export, so it should be a nice industrial themed episode. Let's build some rival twin factories in City Skylines, shall we? So first of all, we will decide which towns are going to have which factories. So I think Karen is going to have the modular house one. So scroll along to wherever that one is. This one right here. A big modular house factory wants plain timber, glass, metal and plastic, which we're producing 3 out of those 4. We need to produce glass locally in order to feed this, which we will go and do today over by Shay's mineral storage. But I want to sort of get this position right, so let's have a look at our asset first of all. Of course, these factories are real chunguses, so let's have a little look as to what sort of side we want to give priority orientation to. I'm thinking this kind of big flat side of it, running parallel with this road, is going to be really cool, isn't it? So I think that is what we're going to go for. First of all, let's configure our entrance. So I think we'll grab some 4-lane industrial road now we have the ability to use it. And we could do a couple of different things with the entrance here. I think we might actually bring it sort of 2 entry and exit points. One of this arterial system here, which does not need a traffic light on it, so we'll turn that off while we're here. Let's get rid of you. And then we can't just throw on the security booth here, can we? Or toll booth even. Let's have a little look. Let's go for 2-way small booth. Hit that 90-degree snap point, and then we can remove this one here. Cool. And then we'll downgrade into 2-lane at this point. Awesome. Okay, that should work then. So at least got a little bit of a sort of security barrier here as we come into the factory complex, I suppose. And now let's position our factory. So this line here isn't really needed anymore, I don't think. We're not going to use that because that line's been factored in further down this way. So we don't need to really bother with that line anymore. So where are you going to come out from? Let's have it here for right now. And then let's get our main asset orientated up against the build. Well, that just about fits perfectly there, doesn't it? How many tiles should we leave between the road and the factory? How does 3 sound? That's going to fill that space quite tastefully there, isn't it? Yeah, that's what I want. So sort of driving down, now you're driving through the industrial parts of Karen. As you're on your way into downtown Orchid Bay, pass by this big chungus asset on your left. Really like that. And then that exposes all this stuff here to the rest of the town, I guess. Cool. I don't think I hate it there. Let's have a little review of this. I think maybe in hindsight it's going to be better off coming from this direction now, isn't it? We can actually just snap this onto the corner. We might just do that instead then. We actually don't need the road off of it, do we? Okay, that makes it easy then. That's okay. So let's have that, and then we will bring our industrial roads together. Make sure we're using the 2-lane one here for the minute. Pass this in, delete what we don't need. I'm pretty happy with that. Make sure I want to delete this connection off of the road now as well. And basically just want to bring it down to the edge of those car parking spaces probably. Something like that. Cool. So let's have a little review of what it needs. We're producing tons of plain timber, we are producing plastic, and we are producing metal. We need to head back over to Pear Tree Petroleum. So how much do we have here? Storing 1 ton of plastic, but we have produced 4 tons of it. We've only got the 1 petrochemical plant that is producing plastic, but we are producing it locally, which is the important thing. And obviously petroleum as well. And then Shay's mineral storage isn't producing glass at the minute. So we need to produce the glass, or place the glass building down, which I don't think we even have unlocked yet, do we? No, yeah, we need level 2 to get the glass manufacturing plant. How far is Shay's Mineral off hitting level 2? Just needs its workers. Okay then, let's do some worker cheese. So if you don't know about this, we'll go through it together while we're here. If you need to hit a level 2, or just sort of bump up a level, if you spam down the extractor buildings, regardless of whether or not there's any resources there, of course there's no oil, there's no ore here. So it wouldn't really make a difference anyway. But just spam down the extractors and the game will automatically pull in workers. So now just jumped up 10, up to 23 now. And it should just keep crawling up as you go. Keep placing more of them if you need to. 4 of them should be enough to get us there. Place down a couple more as well. I guess we can just push out the industrial area. We will eventually come down here, by the way, and turn this into a proper ore quarry. So we might as well actually paint up that area, ready for that build one day. But for right now, I really just want those workers. So let's just place down that dirt road there. And we'll just place down a few more. Shay's Mineral Store's moved over there now. And then we should see that pop any minute. There we go. Wonderful news. That also gives us the steel plant as well. Fantastic. So of course, delete them once they're down. Cool. And then that does give us the glass manufacturing plant now. There it is. Wonderful news. Alright, where can we have you? You would actually go perfectly there, will you? Between the rail lines. Yeah, I don't mind that actually, but that is going to produce glass for us, which allows the factories in Karen to continue working. So they will slowly extract that. They've got plenty of ore stored up here. That's great. So we can now supply this factory, which is good. So we'll leave this here. Now let's have a talk about some warehouses. So let's bring a road parallel with it. And then we'll get some warehouse storage knocking about near here. So let's see what options we have available. Let's go for... Oh, we do have the warehouse to rail connection as well. I love using these now since we have the rail. This one probably doesn't need it because it's going to be a pain to work in the rail connection into this space. The rail is probably better off going here for Sharon's factory, which we will do. So if I'm looking to work in some warehouses, let's go for a couple here. We'll bring them onto their own little road as well. So we'll go with this one here. We'll have 2 of these down, for which these are going to store glass and metal, because this comes from the furthest point away. So the more we can store, the less trips they'll have to make for it. And then off of this one here, we'll bring this down and around. Let's go for right there. Can we bring this just up and behind? We can, that's fine. If we actually dragged Karen Town over, we would lose the waterfront for where the industrial area is, so we actually have to create a new district here for Karen's factory. We'll also do the same thing for Sharon's as well, because we want to use industrial evolution specialization here. But I do have generic industry in Sharon that I don't want to lose, so we have to make a new area. So let's go for industrial evolution for sure. We'll have that there. Get rid of some of these trees over here too. Cool. So as always, keep checking out angles and orientations. I really like the way this sort of bulky industrial facility is now established itself up next to all these big important arterial systems back into to the highway. Always very important, isn't it, for a vibe? And now we just need to store the last 2 resources, which will be plastic and plain timber. I think for these we'll just go with a small warehouse. We'll draw out a holding frame and then we'll put in a warehouse yard behind that. And then just where we have some spaces available, let's start introducing little bits of that industrial evolution. Start help detailing our industrial areas a little bit better. Let's bring this one back a touch and hook it in there. Cool, let's go for that one, and then hopefully we've got enough room to squeeze in some parking for workers as well, which we just about do. Fabulous, so we'll have that there. Oh, it'd be great to have that back to back, actually. One tile off as well, isn't it? Yes, we can have that back to back. Let me just do that quickly. Worker parking in there. Let's go ahead and get that small warehouse yard down again. So we'll have that there. We do lose a bit of that industrial evolution, but that's okay. Always redraw it in. We find some fun new shapes and patterns that we're a fan of today for decorating these sorts of builds. So you need to store plain timber, and you will store plastic. Awesome. So these red brick buildings are a little bit of a clash with the rest of the modern industry we've got here, so we'll wait for them to level up a little bit. Although I do like the little warehouse one here though with the props outside it, that has to be said. And then I reckon some airport aprons would go down well, just for filling a lot of that concrete space. Fill it all in one there, can't we? And then if we can concrete up a little bit of this space, maybe save in 2 tiles in between for some sort of industrial estate detailing perhaps. Maybe something like that. And then we'll get a tree that we don't usually see. Maybe an angrier tree associated with Karen. Flame tree sounds good, right? Okay. And then we'll see if we can sort of start detailing up our industrial area. Lots of concrete space here. Fabulous. We'll wait for some of these to level up as well, of course. Otherwise, as a general factory warehouse configuration, I'm really happy with that. We're looking pretty important now from most angles, I think, aren't we? Not bad. Of course, these builds can get super ugly really quickly. Sort of driving into Karen here, you hit the roundabout and you can just see that larger industrial facility. Very nice. We'll also get a lot of fencing around it here as well, which really hammers home those in factory complexes. Definitely some classic oil fence, but we will respect the fence police and make sure that we're having our spikes the right way around, which we are. So we want to go from left to right. So let's bring this down here, and then we can run this right the way down with the road. And that should just tie off those vibes, shouldn't it? Cool. People living in the Brooklyns and Queens stuff here overlooking the factories at Karen's modular houses. Cool. So, frames here for this one. Of course, wants detailing and refining with the forest and whatnot, but let's turn our attention now towards Sharon's rival factory. So before we place Sharon's factory, I want to do a bit of train line work here. So I want to use the airport cargo station, this one here, for importing and exporting via rail. So this line here is currently carrying cargo trains, so we can definitely sort of tap into this one, I think is going to be the best way to do this. And again, I think the best orientation here, and also going to be cool for decorating our arterial system, is going to be having the train yard itself orientated against this arterial, and then we can feed the train lines back into it. So let's grab this here. We can have the train line stop there. We can also apron that up as well to give a nice even surface painter finish. Thank you very much. A little bit of fence in here as well to indicate the end of the cargo line. And again, it's going to contribute to our industrial factors over this side of the city as well, isn't it? Cool. Of course, these guys are super located as well because they have like immediate highway access for the 2 factories, so traffic should not be an issue here at all. Awesome. So now we've got that positioned, let's go ahead and get those train lines hooked in. So I guess we could actually do it omnidirectionality here if we wanted to. We could have it hooked in both ways because it does have 2 platforms, of course. But I'm pretty sure only one of them works, doesn't it? I'm sure it does. At least it did in ILOS when we used these as well. Cool, and then we'll just find a nice happy curve here, hopefully without setting the train place. Yeah, that shouldn't be too bad. Then we'll see if we can do the same thing here again as well. See if we can hit a big curve line here. Let's go for freeform instead. So we can have that one like that. And then will you hook into the pedestrian crossing for me? I think you will, won't you? And that leaves a very happy egg, if that's just going to behave itself like that. Fantastic. Cool. So we'll leave it plugged in anyway, and we'll see if hopefully both train stations here are going to get used for importing and exporting all the goods that are going to be coming into this area. So we're looking to make another industrial complex here. Go ahead and throw in another security toll gate. That's going to be good for me. And then let's get some industrial road. Bring this up here. And because we've got train imports and exports coming out this way, I think what we will do is build a tiny little roundabout. No guideline here either. Just to help move traffic around this particular complex, because this one's probably going to be busier than the current one. Let's come up here, everyone can hook in and be friends again. Let's bring this out and down as well. I'd also love the train warehouse again in here as well that we just looked at. I know the train connection is on the other side, isn't it? But let's do that there. And then we can bring the road behind to hold it. And then can we go from here? Need a little bit more room there, don't we? Let's go for one more tile out instead. Okay, then we'll flip this train warehouse around on its side. Again, for which we can have it right up against our road. Then can we provide that connection if we hook into here? And then we can just use this little space as close as we can move it up. Said these train warehouses almost feel like they're made sort of back to front, you know, like I feel like I want this to be straight. It's so much easier to use, but whatever, they're still very cool assets, aren't they? Yeah, so we're a little bit too close, aren't we? We just need to move over and down a little bit. So let's move this to like here. You're gonna be happy with that? Then we can get that in there. We're gonna start creating some cool sort of rail crossing vibes here now, aren't we? And you can just store... I don't think they've really got any storage here for generic commercial zone goods, have they? And there is quite a bit of commercial over this side now, especially since Sharon's been built. I think we'll just go for commercial goods. We could also store unique factory products here as well if we wanted to. But we will wait and see what happens with that. Cool, and I think we can give everyone a little hug and kiss here at the bottom, can we? Make sure everyone's all hooked in. A little bit of airport apronage here might go quite nicely, I think. Cool, but we can have that there. So again, lots more cool industrial infrastructure over this way as well, isn't there? And then we also want to do another district here as well, for which we'll get them to sort of meet and border one another as well. For Sharon's factory district. Sharon's factory, and then this one across the street is Karen's factory. There we go. Cool, so now actually let's bring in Sharon's factory as well. Again, return to this roundabout here. And I think we're going to go for the food one. So Sharon's going to be producing some food for us. We are going to use the fish factory as Sharon's personal industrial build here as well for an episode. With a fishing harbour over this side of the water. But for right now, she is just going to be producing a little bit of food for us. So I think I want it to be positioned with this road over here. Okay, so we'll grab the food factory. And again, we've also got elevated highway here as well, which is a network that I want to respect. And I do like the food factory. Got Herman's Food, so maybe this is owned by Sharon Herman. And what's the other one called? That can be owned by Karen Littlebox, I guess. Or maybe we go for Karen Little. Okay, Karen Little and Sharon Herman. Can we expand the law? Is everyone on board with that? Okay, yeah. There you go, we now have surnames and an enormous amount of industrial train traffic. You boys alright? You're just coming in to fill up with industrial goods, aren't you? Which is fine. Oh, there you go, they use the other platform there. So they're using the left industrial platform here to import. See how everyone else gets on. Okay, yeah, they're using both platforms of this cargo train station, which is good. Lots of import function coming now. Very happy to see that. So I think I'd almost like the factory to be positioned with its back to this elevated highway network, because I think that's going to complement both the factory and the elevated road. So if we have this, say, like here, and we'll have that main logo facing out onto the roundabout for brand exposure purposes. Have it a little bit further set back in the facility there. And then as people are driving past here as well, which we might end up embanking during today's detail time lapse, we can have back of the factory just sat up against this network, which we always appreciate stuff like this, don't we? A nice drive by an elevated network like that. You see this all the time. If anyone's ever drove through sort of the Midlands in England, through Birmingham on the M6, you'll sort of get this vibe quite a lot. Elevated road network flowing through industrial infrastructure. Not that this area is remotely based on Birmingham, but to prove my point. Cool, and then let's have a road come down here. I imagine we're going to want a couple of one-way systems here, actually. Can we... Yeah, I reckon we can actually feed this into a one-way system. So we'll have it come one way up to the factory. And then its second one can come back out here. And then we'll make this a one-way loop. And that should be wonderful. In terms of storing what this needs, which is, again, another 4. So it always shares plastic with Karens as well, doesn't it? That's okay, though. Yeah, we can store this here. Let's go ahead and get a triplet of warehouse yards. Again, I want to orientate these probably up against the back end of this road here. So let's bring in an industrial road. Oh no, no, don't do that. There we go, don't upgrade. So I want to go a tile deeper than I actually need. Cool, and then I can position 1, 2 and 3. Which again, once these fill up with the various resources, you'll see the cargo being stored in them, which against the arterial system is going to really help decorate the industrial build. Because, you know, we're without vanilla industrial props in vanilla, so you really have to bring in the position of buildings and sort of zonings to help detail industrial builds in vanilla cities. Also as well, from the stuff we've seen in Cities 2, doesn't really seem to be an enormous amount of industrial props that have been shown off yet, so I'm sincerely hoping that that sort of changes from being the case. We'll hopefully see some sort of industrial detailing coming soon. So Sharon's factory also wants to be industrial evolution, and again we can maybe explore the idea of having some industrial evolution stuff here. Don't think I'd be against that. And then we also want one more factory here to store the final product for Sharon, which I think we'll have this one in there. Is that alright? Can we provide a bit more parking for you guys? Actually, why am I using this parking? I should be using the Railroads of Japan one. It's significantly nicer. I wouldn't actually know it's not. It's not significantly nicer. It's just, it's more industrial looking. Even though you do get that stupid concrete tearing that needs move it to fix it, but whatever. Cool. I reckon a couple of these little Japanese assets actually might be perfect for detailing a little area like this. Can we get the ROJ Railway branch office there? We can. And airport apron there as well, I think. Yeah, it helps us detail a bit of an entrance office, doesn't it? Yeah, okay, I can get on board with that then. I'm definitely happy. Yes, sorry, food factory, sorry. So we want plastic here. So plastic, paper. And that one. Paper and plain timber, no problem. We should have a ton of it coming out of the Tree with Leaves #1 forestry area we built right near the start of the series. Flour, are we actually producing flour? Did I put a flour mill in this build? Yes, I did. How much are we actually producing though? Francis Farms. Yeah, we're producing a little bit. Although animal products is not being produced. Okay, similar to what we did with the all storage area, then we might need to add in tiny cattle shed into this build. Because the cattle shed, it doesn't really look as though it's associated with cattle. So I'm happy to include it somewhere here. So I bet here actually isn't the worst shout for it. Yeah, just having that there. You know, it doesn't have like cattle roaming around. It just looks like another outhouse for these crop fields, doesn't it? It's also quite nice to see these older areas as well, isn't it? We've not been over by Fields of Gordon for a long time. Regional airport's over here now. But 87% traffic flow as well, everyone. Yes, please. Very nice indeed. Cool. So that will now produce products for us. And of course they can use this high-speed national road to actually transport them over to this part of the city now. Important network prep we did a couple episodes ago, remember? That's always why. Yes, and then you are storing those animal products. Fabulous. And now food factory. Wait, you did get animal products. Where did you get that from? Where am I making animal products from? Francis Farms isn't producing animal products. Am I missing something blindingly obvious here? Did we build another farm? Yes, we did, you idiot egg. Right at the start of the city. Of course, we got a slaughterhouse. Cool. I was like, hold on a minute. I haven't placed a slaughterhouse in this city. We did. In literally the second episode we did. Ignore me, everyone. I am forgetting about my own builds. It's been a long time since that episode, right? You have to forgive me. Cool, wonderful, and there's Sharon Hernan's sign lighting up as well now the factory kicks into operation. Not enough special goods, not operating, just so you're missing your plastic, are you? Okay, yeah, plastic is an issue, isn't it? So let's return to this bit over here. Yeah, we are making it, it's just got to be transported and stored, hasn't it? We just need to let the simulation tick over so they have the chance to stock up their resources. It's making it to the food factory. So if they're struggling to stay stocked with plastic, it's probably a good point now for a proper refinery build, which I think is going to lie over near the port. I'm quite keen to get started on this area over here. Lots of industry to be had, which is good because like Orchid Bay has very few industry. It's mostly wild hedge and skyscrapers, isn't it, at this point? Awesome, but traffic is more than sustaining itself. Also whack these toll booths up as well, right? Let's charge more for them. And we can also delete this connection here now as well. That is not needed anymore. And this can just wrap it up for the rest of the facility. Likewise over here as well, that can be wrapped up there. Cool. So don't mind this industrial evolution stuff here. Really adding a good vibe into it. This is all level 3 now, isn't it? Yeah, they look a lot more modern, like levels 2s and 3, these industrial evolution stuff. But that isn't bad. I don't really hate that configuration there. Of course it all wants detailing and whatnot, but we're definitely on our way. Yeah, see, this is what we like. Little props now starting to pile up as you drive by the factory area here. Really helps detail it, doesn't it? Fantastic, although that tractor did just steal them though. So something else I always like to try and do with big industrial builds like this is try factoring garbage processing and water treatment. And it turns out we're actually just on the threshold of needing both. So let's go for a large water tower. Of course we don't want this near any sources of pollution, for which this area is actually quite heavily polluted, which is on theme. But I can enjoy a water tower in and amongst the interchange, that's not going to be too bad. And then let's get some sewage treatment assets down too. Maybe a couple of... What are these ones like? Advanced inland water treatment. See, I do like these assets, but I prefer like the visual of the water for water treatment, you know? So I think we can have these factored into the build. Again, I want them positioned and orientated up and near this main road. So we'll do that again. Let's knock it back a little bit further, and then we'll just have this one here. So it's almost like Karen, out of spite, has chosen to have her feces processed right on the edge of her town boundary, just where Sharon is producing her food. So maybe we can make that part of the ongoing war between the angry middle-aged women that seem to run Orchid Bay's industrial infrastructure. So we'll have that there, okay. Maybe a little bit more parking out the front of this one as well, if we want to, during the detailing time lapse, but that should give us a little bit more breathing room. We could also add another one as well if we wanted to double that up. Although, are you going to... Yes, you are going to poison my water here, okay. We will move this slightly further over the interchange then. There should be okay, I think. Cool. That shouldn't encroach upon it now, right? Can we check our pollution circle? Yeah, just outside of it. That's going to be okay. And then in terms of garbage processing, there's this asset here, which I still haven't used, which is the Eco Incinerator Plant. Okay, it's quite nice, isn't it? But it is hard to use as well. I kind of prefer the aesthetic of the Japanese one compared to the Korean. Just a little bit more brutalist and industrial looking, isn't it? So I think the ability to get some garbage processing in here, which is actually going to give us a little bit of a pop in height over here, which I don't mind because we're actually playing with the coastline here as well, so a little bit of an industrial skyline I don't mind at all developing out here. There's also another asset I wanted to use, so if anyone has ever taken the Western Main Line north out of London Euston, you will drive past, I think, the National Rail headquarters, and it's kind of a skyscraper just out on its own where sort of National Rail operate from in the UK. And it's a really similar vibe to this building here, which is the Railroad of Japan Railway Company headquarters building. And I kind of want to use this here. Not at that exact spot, but include it within the industrial skyline itself, you know? To have it facing out over the rail. I think we can get on board with it. But of course, as always, positioning is incredibly important, especially with an asset that's this big. So let's see if we can grab our one-way road to sit here. And can we squeeze this in? We can. We can have it there. But I definitely want the city's rail logo here to be facing out across the water. So some sort of orientation is going to be important here. I'm also wondering if we can knock this a little bit further down. So it sits about there. And we can almost let this run directly underneath these bridges. If not, we need to just finagle some of those pillars around. Go for about there, and then hopefully that building will sit just there, which again exposes its logo toward the rail and the highway. And eventually, once we develop our couplet system to continue flowing around this way, once we develop this area of the map, it should be a pretty cool position, and I think for the Orchid Bay Rail headquarters to be based in. But it should be pretty cool to have Orchid Bay's rail company stationed, or at least have their headquarters based within Sharon's industrial factory district. So I'm going to include it. Might be a divisive one, but let me know. I'll also try to throw up some pictures of the building I'm talking about, the one that's outside of London. So I'll throw it up on screen during the edit. But otherwise, this feels like a good place for a detailing time lapse. It's got two big industrial factory districts here to detail, lots of airport aprons, fencing, zoning of industrial evolution, and other bits and pieces to tie what is a very unique build together. A lot of fun today. But either way, let's get detailed, and we'll be right back. Okay guys, let's have a little detailing review, shall we, of our rival factory districts. So up at the front of Karen's factory, I've removed the forest and just done a little more of a sensible overgrowth palette, and also waited for a petrol station to come here, which is great, right, just on the outskirts of town, having a little petrol station near the interchange. Coming into it, we can see a bit more of industrial evolution around here. Also dropped in a power plant. We're actually needing another serious bit of power infrastructure expansion, so I think over here we're going to do the nuclear plant right by the flowing water. So we'll do that with the fishing harbour as well, which should be quite a fun build for Sharon's main industry. But either way, waited for some one deep industrial evolution stuff, so we get some little props in between here, which helps kind of overgrow those industrial yards. And the modular house factory is pretty much staying stocked for the most part. If anything, we can actually afford to up its production a little bit, but plastic is still a little bit scarce until we build a proper refinery, which will come at some point. Otherwise, the entire facility has been wrapped up with oil fence, and then we had some industry demand as well. So I thought we could get away with a couple of high-density tower blocks just knocking about on the outskirts of Karen here, just down the main road. So got a little bit of commercial in there, residential, sorry. I also included a pedestrian overpass to come over the middle of the road, complete with some modern art in the middle. And people are using it actually to get back into the different trolleybus exchange points, which is nice to have. This sort of industrial area served by trolleybuses is quite thematic, I think. And really enjoying the way that this road is starting to develop now. Of course, this was all empty before we started here today, and it's nice to see it growing further and further out from that downtown city centre, isn't it? Down these big arterial roads. Really enjoying it. And then a little bit of overgrowth detailing and fence work knocking around near the edge here. So Karen's is pretty simple, just nice blocky infrastructure. Really like the way it looks here from the interchanges on the approach into town as well. You've just got this big industrial facility, really nice, lots of car parking around here as well, alongside a little bit more industrial evolution. We then come into Sharon's factory, and we'll start over here by the rail yard that again has gone for ore fence on this side. I thought it would be fun to have the rival factory districts kind of have used two different types of fencing just to spite the other, which I thought was cool. So got oil on this side, ore on this one, and then our rail yard spills back out into some more zoning on the back of that rail yard factory that comes through here. Now that is starting to hold some goods for us, which is very nice. A little bit of parking and some services because we needed some fire over this way, and also got in one of the fire watch towers here as well, which is quite nice. Heading down into the facility, we arrive at a little roundabout with some detailing, and the perfect excuse to finally use that rail asset here as we see a train going past in the distance. And I'm an enormous lover of the rail headquarters here. Like I said, we'll throw that picture up on what I'm referencing here in the edit. But really nice, it's turned out super cool. It's a nice pop of height for the coastline here. Changed the orientation of the waste disposal unit and done some sort of path and overgrowth detailing around the side of it to help it settle in. Which is quite nice, again, adding a bit more of an industrial skyline into this part of the map, isn't it? So really happy to see that coming in. Over here again, a bit more industrial evolution with overgrowth and trees and long grass between the warehouses where needed. Again, we can see our plastic supply is a little bit low, and this one here is tending to be running out of it most of the time, so again, that will come once we get a proper plastic supply set up. Got some airport apron stuff out here just to expand the concrete space from the delivery bay on this side of the factory, which I think some concrete space in front of a gate. It's just a shame we don't have any props to detail it with, but you know, vanilla city skylines for you. But yeah, I really quite like the way that this turned out. More parking, path and tree designs around here, and then I really wanted to leave just a bit of open green space at the foot of the major buildings just to let them speak for themselves rather than trying to hide them with something. We've got some more Japanese car parking here with wild hedge and jacaranda, and now our rail headquarters sits really nicely as part of a little industrial skyline that's formed after today's episode. But otherwise guys, that is going to do it for today. Let's thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed, likes, comments and shares below really do help grow the channel. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, please feel free to leave me a dislike as well. I'm really happy with this rival sort of factory districts between the two separate towns here. It turned out really nicely. It's added some much needed industrial chunkiness into Orchid Bay because there's not really that many major industrial facilities outside of the first ones we built like 40 episodes ago. So I'm happy to see some developing over here, and the industrial vibes will continue, especially near Sharon's coastline once we come to build Sharon's industry, which I think is going to be made up of nuclear power and fishing, which will lead to some Simpsons jokes, I'm sure. But otherwise, please do enjoy your cinematics of the new area today. I'll shut up and leave it there. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.